Okay guys, we're going to continue practicing finding slope from 2 points. If you notice here, I have 2 points. We're going to graph them and find the rise over the run. So the first thing you're going to do is label the points x, y, x, and y. And I've noticed some of you have had trouble graphing, so I'm going to give you guys a trick. You should all have a calculator, and if we see that x is supposed to be -4, you're going to go on the x-axis, you're going to highlight -4, and then you're going to go on the y-axis and highlight 7. Okay? When you bring those 2 points together, that is where your point goes. It's at -4 and 7. You can see it lines up between your highlighted area. Next we have -6, -4. So I'm going to highlight -6 on my x-axis. It's right here. And then I'm going to highlight 4 on my y-axis. So if I follow my fingers and I bring those 2 points together, I'm right here at -6 on the x-axis, 4 on the y-axis. Okay, now that we've done that, we're going to form our line. So draw your line between the points. And now we want to determine the slope or the steepness. So the first part, remember we learned, is we need to know if this is a positive or a negative line. So some of you have been struggling with knowing if it's positive or negative. So we're going to go ahead and draw Mr. Slopeman. So draw his eyebrows. That's a positive line. This eyebrow is a negative line. Draw his nose and put a U for an undefined. Draw a flat mouth and put a 0 for a slope of 0. So if we look at Mr. Slopeman, this is clearly a positive line, so we're going to circle positive. And now we need to find the rise over the run. So you're going to take these 2 points and you're going to draw your triangle, and we're counting by 1. So we're going to count our rise, which is up and down, and it's 1, 2, 3. So we have a rise of 3. It's a positive slope, and a run of 1, 2. So we have a slope of 3/2. We want to make sure that's simplified. So in your calculator, you're going to type in 3 divided by 2, and then you press math, enter, enter. And 3/2 is simplified, so you would leave your final answer as 3/2. Okay, so that represents the slope or the steepness of the line. But we are going to take that idea and we're going to actually use the slope formula. So what if we didn't have a graph? How could we find the rise over the run? So you started working with this yesterday. So let's bring our points down. We have -4, 7, and we're going to stack -6, 4 under it. Okay? The next thing we're going to do, we're going to label our x's and our y's. So remember, our rise means that we are counting how far apart our y values are. Distance is found by subtracting. So circle your y column, and we're going to subtract 7 minus 4. Make sure you write that out. And then we have to subtract our x values because that is our run. So we have -4. Minus is part of the formula, so you have to write minus, and then we have -6. Okay. Now some of us struggle with keep, change, change. So if you struggle with that, it's okay to type it in your calculator just like you see it. So we're going to do the top first, 7 minus 4. We always check our answers because negatives are trickies. 7 minus 4 is a positive 3. That goes on top. And then we have -4 minus -6. So I'm going to type -4 minus -6, and I get positive 2. So notice, by using the slope formula, I have found the same answer as I found when I graphed the 2 points. They are just 2 different ways to find the same thing, and we have to know how to do both of them. So let's move on to the next one. Okay, we have -5, 3 and -1, 0. Label it x, y, x, and y. So if we're going to graph these points, we see that this is an x value. We go to the x-axis. We're going to highlight -5. And then we're going to go to the y-axis and highlight 3. If we move our fingers together, we should come to the point -5, 3. You can check yourself. You're at -5 for x and 3 for y. Now we're going to graph our other point, -1, 0. We're going to go to the left, -1. And then this is where it can be confusing. 0 means we didn't rise at all. So -1, 0, if we pull together right here, we're going to be right on this axis. This is -1, 0. So go ahead and draw your line through it. First thing we have to do is know, is this a positive or a negative slope? So if you're not sure, go ahead and look at Mr. Slope Man. That is a negative slope. So our slope is going to be negative. Go ahead and mark it as negative. Now it needs to find the rise over the run. So let's draw a triangle with your points. The rise. Okay, rise means up and down. So let's count how many units these are apart. 1, 2, 3. So that's going to go on top. And then let's count the run. 1, 2, 3, 4. That is going to go on the bottom. We have -3/4. Okay, let's see if that's simplified. Let's type -3 divided by 4 in our calculator and press math, enter, enter. It is simplified, so -3/4, we're going to leave that as our answer. So now let's make sure we can use the slope formula, because what if we didn't have a graph? So I'm going to rewrite my points and I'm going to stack them. -5, 3, -1, 0. I'm going to label X and Y. Okay, I always subtract Y's on top. So I'm going to subtract from top to bottom. 3 minus 0. And then I have -5 minus, and then there's a -1. Okay, so 3 minus 0, if you're not sure, zeros are tricky, the answer is 3. And then you're going to type -5 minus -1. The answer is -4. Okay, so let's go ahead and type this in our calculator. 3 divided by -4, math, enter, enter. The final answer is -3/4. If we've done our correctly, these should match, and we do get the same thing, because by finding how far apart Y is, when you count, remember we talked about this yesterday, counting on the number line, how far apart numbers are, is the same thing as subtracting. So in your mind, we had kids yesterday saying, how do we get from 3 to 0 on the number line? That's the same thing as counting the units. How do we get from -5 to -1? Also the same thing as counting the units, but all of you agreed you would prefer to subtract. So this is what we're going to continue to do. I'm going to do one more example. Flip to the back. I want you to think in your head, what is the first thing Ms. Gertson did with the points? We labeled them X, Y, X, Y. Okay, now that you've done that, we need to highlight on the axis. So the first one is X, go to the X axis, highlight your 1. Go to the Y axis, highlight your 2. And now let's bring the points together. Here's your point at 1, 2. 7, 9. Go to 7 on the axis, and then go to 9. At 7, 9, it should be right here. So let's draw our line. Okay, we're thinking first, is this a positive or a negative line? If you need to flip back to Mr. Slopeman, you can, or you can just redraw his eyes. This is a positive line, and so we are going to mark our slope as positive. Draw your triangle. We're counting our rise over our run. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we rose 7, and our run was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Positive 7, 6. Let's make sure that's simplified. 7 divided by 6. Math, enter, enter. Nice, we get 7, 6. Okay, we're going to do the same thing just by thinking about the numbers. 1, 2, 7, 9. We're going to label these X and Y. Okay, we want to know how far apart 2 and 9 are. We want to know the rise, so we're going to subtract. 2 minus 9 and subtract the X's. 1 minus 7. Using our calculators, 2 minus 9 is -7. And then 1 minus 7, -6. Okay, we're never going to leave two negatives like this. We're always going to check, type in your calculator, -7 divided by -6, and you're going to simplify. Math, enter, enter. The final answer is 7, 6. So as you can see, we have the exact same answer. So over here, I want you to graph these points and you're gonna notice something interesting about the slope. So I'm gonna complete Mr. Slopeman. Draw his nose, make it undefined. His mouth, give it a slope of 0. Once you're here, if you have any questions, I want you to raise your hand, but I do want you to keep working through the packet, and either Miss Bishop or I will come around to help you.